Hi there, everyone. So we're just going to be looking at the final pass criteria for Unit 16, which is developing smarter planet. The good news is that you've already done something very similar to this as part of your Internet of Everything assignment. So what you're basically going to be doing is taking a concept or a range of concepts. First of all, you're going to be describing those. Then you're going to be taking one of them and developing it more fully, and then you're going to be presenting it. Those are the last three criteria, basically. So what we've got here, um, like I said, it's very similar actually in terms of your Internet of Everything task. And what you may well find, okay, is you may well have something from that unit, which is a smart device, which you may well be able to use for some of this or adapt for some of this, which is obviously would be very useful to you. Okay, so if you already have something which meets a lot of this criteria, you're probably not going to meet each and every bit of it because there were slightly different things asked of you in that unit. But the thing is that you might have quite a lot of it that does meet, which will reduce the amount of work that you have to do, which is nice. Obviously. So first thing you need to do is look at a range of smart. So this is going to be a presentation. It's going to be a presentation document, sorry, a proposal document. That's what you're going to have to call this thing. So make sure when you hand it in or at the beginning of your presentation, you make that clear. Okay, so a slide that says this is the proposal document. And the first thing you're going to be doing is looking at a range of smart devices. Okay, so or smart systems. And I've identified 5 for you to look at: education, banking, entertainment, transport, and environment. So you need to do all 5 of those, or find one device from all 5 of those areas. There should be plenty for you to discuss. And to be honest with you might already have done a range of these, like I said, for your Unit 17 last year. So you might want to go back and have a look at that work and see if there's anything you can use. But you do need to be making sure there's one for each of these areas. So education, obviously you're in education, banking, entertainment. A number of you have entertainment devices. How could we use smart devices in transport and environmental smart devices? And you're going to be, so what I'm looking for here is not hugely in-depth discussion on each of these. You need to describe what it is, what it does, and identify some key features. Okay, so it's not out there in terms of what you actually need to produce for this, but you do need to make sure that you include any extra information and definitely references within your speaker notes. If there are submissions without speaker notes, they're just going to be sent back to you. Okay, because we need speaker notes in all of these, even if they are just your references. But you're more likely to pass. Well, you won't pass if you haven't got anything in there at all. But if you want to kind of expand on your points, then that gives you a much better chance of passing. Okay, so you will need that item in there. Then you're going to need to select one of those, and you'll need to look at it in much more depth. Like I said, it's very similar to Unit 17. And you're going to be including a range of bullet points that are going to be coming up. You don't need each and every one of them, but you will need to use enough for them that obviously I can pass you on it. Okay, and remember, for all of this stuff, or as much of it as possible, you will need to expand in speaker notes, put references there, even if they're just things that you've looked at in terms of when you've been developing this idea. So you're taking what's kind of a current proposal and you're discussing how it currently works and how it could be improved. Okay, so that's kind of a really key thing. You will need to, because the key word in there is development. So you are going to need to think about, okay, this is what it is right now, and this is how we could move forward in the future. And you could discuss, obviously, why have you chosen this? How could the product be developed in the future? What is the purpose and objective? So why are we developing this in the first place? Why are people spending a load of money to develop this product? What could it do? What could it save? Stakeholders, which is kind of anybody who will be involved in the actual product. So you've got people who are going to use the product. So that could be either members of staff who might find it useful, or it could be the customers, or it could be people who are buying the product. So if I look at a college, people involved in college systems are obviously students, members of staff, and you've got external stakeholders such as government and local authority. So you've got all of these different people who could be involved in it. You've got any companies that might be involved with the college, manufacturers, people who make stuff for us. So an example of a manufacturer would be somebody like Dell, who does most of our IT equipment. I don't know if we're still, because we have a contract with them, so I don't actually know if we're still under contract with them or if we will move elsewhere further down the line, maybe find somebody a bit cheaper who gives us more for our money. I don't know. But that's just kind of a little example. If this happens in every line of work, there are always going to be some kind of stakeholders. Otherwise, there's very little point in doing the development you're suggesting if nobody's going to find any impact from it. It seems a bit of a waste of time. But so you will have some stakeholders there. That's probably quite an easy thing to talk about. But you're also going to be thinking about what impact they're going to find. People don't tend to use stuff if it's not going to benefit them in some way or another. People don't use products if they are of no benefit. It doesn't make any sense. People do not spend money on something if it doesn't give them anything. So you have to think about that. You've got, obviously, like I said, what things can be developed for the product, and I think that kind of overlaps with bullet point in the previous slide. You could look at potentially how things could be measured. So data speed, number of users, costs, anything like that. Interconnectivity, so you could look at potentially if you have a smart product, what's going to be connected by this product. So again, you've got people, systems, objects. So if I look at the college, people, like I said, are me, you, or external stakeholders. Systems could be something like Pro Monitor. It could be something like the CPOM system that we use. You guys don't use that. Or objects could be just computers, other devices that we have around the college. But remember, this has to be a smart device, okay? So you will need to think about, the device itself doesn't necessarily have to be smart, but it could be something that it is like a smart system interacting with it, if that makes sense. Our computers aren't necessarily smart, but they have smart things that interact with it. Like, for example, you could potentially have on your phone a smart system, and you could potentially access a website on a desktop computer that gives you information about. So although the desktop computer is not necessarily smart, it's still interacting with a smart system. And that kind of links with some of the other bullet points we've got here. So you've got intelligence. So your smart devices are collecting loads and loads and loads of different data all the time. So what are they doing with that data? So your smart product is likely collecting a lorry load of data. What is it going to do with it? What is the purpose of that? And don't forget that under the Data Protection Act, you have to be collecting data for a purpose. So you can't just collect data just for the hell of it. And you also need to be making sure that the people who use it know all about this. I'm whipping through this because the recording is a maximum of 15 minutes. Okay. Use of analytics, it kind of links with intelligence, but analytics like the process of you taking all this data and working out what the best solution is for whatever it is you want to do. How do you make things more efficient? How do you make things better, basically? You got requirements, what technologies you're going to need. Sometimes you may just need a mobile phone. Sometimes you may need something very bespoke. So bespoke is something that's very unique, built for a specific purpose. What obviously do you hope to achieve? Now, some of these bullet points may overlap each other. I appreciate that. And you don't necessarily have to do each and every bullet point, otherwise you'll be presenting forever. However, you do need to go over a sufficient range of them, and especially the ones at the beginning, which is like, why have you chosen this and how could you potentially develop it moving forward? The final criteria of your entire course with me, or start with the last pass criteria of your entire course with me is going to be a pitch or a presentation. And you probably knew this was coming because I've been saying it's very similar to Unit 17, and this is what is at the end of Unit 17. The difference, of course, is that we have a very limited amount of time for you to do the pitch. So you will be doing it. You will get a designated slot. as in a designated lesson. You are going to be video doing it so that we have evidence of you you doing this thing. Because it says you need to present to stakeholders. Everybody who is in a particular slot will need to stay for the whole time. So it's only an hour. It's not like I'm asking you to come in and sit there all day watching this. So it's not particularly unreasonable. But we do need an audience. Okay. I expect you to be there on time, and I expect you, when you are going to present, that you have the document ready to present, which may sound obvious, but I have so many students who go up to present and all of a sudden find they have the wrong document there, which is bizarre. I don't know how you guys managed to get the wrong document uploaded. You need to check it. It's your responsibility to check this stuff. I don't know whether your document is the most up-to-date version. How am I meant to know that? So you need to make sure that when you've uploaded it, you go and click on it and make sure it's the right one. We do not have time for you not to be meeting these slots. I have like a week, and then I need to give you feedback on it, and then if you haven't passed it, you need to make changes to your presentation. So I have no time. You have no time. We can't simply do the pitch the week after. That's just not going to happen. So I'm afraid we are very, very limited in the time that we have for you to be able to do this. Hence the reason why I'm giving you these slots, and obviously we're missing the Friday because of a GCSE exam. So it's going to be a Tuesday. Some of you are going to be in 8 o'clock in the morning slot, and if you aren't there, you will fail the unit. So you need to be sorting that out. And as unfair as that is, there are some people who are just going to have to do that. And 8 o'clock in the morning is frankly not a particularly early start. You need to kind of wake up and smell the roses there, really, in terms of that. There are some people in life who start at 5 and 4 in the morning, or have to get trains into London, and then they're waking up at 5 and 4 in the morning. But anyway, I'm not going to go into a thing about that. The bottom line is that you have all of this to do. And if you have done a good amount of stuff for Unit 17, like I said, you can use a load of it for this. And actually, it really shouldn't be too bad in terms of the amount of work that you have to do. Okay. As far as a set of 3 criteria go, this is pretty straightforward, really. It's not like the system analysis unit where you are having to write loads and loads and loads. So it needs to all be handed in by Friday the 22nd of May, which gives me the opportunity to mark as much as possible and have a little look at it beforehand, potentially. Presentations will be the week you get back, so there'll be some people in on Tuesday and there'll be some people in on Thursday, and you'll be in on Thursday anyway, or you'll be in on Tuesday and Wednesday. Get it right. Tuesday and Thursday anyway. Some of you will be on the Wednesday, of course. And we have no time now. We need to be handing off your grades on the Friday afterwards, and the thought process that you might be able to do it the week after is quite strange, really. Anyway, so I'm going to stop that. I'm going to get this uploaded as quickly as possible, and then you hopefully be able to go start actioning it. And I look forward to seeing these presentations because they should be quite interesting. The week after half term. And good luck. Any questions, do ping me a message, let me know anything that you might have.